We are about halfway through 2018, so I thought it would be fun to give Nintendo Switch a mid-year grade. Now, Nintendo has been kind of questionable with their releases this year, and there's a lot of mixed opinions about this, so I'm really excited to hear what you guys had to say, and of course, what I think about Nintendo Switch so far in 2018. Now, looking back at 2017, which seems like so long ago, Nintendo came in with a vengeance, releasing their console in March and coming out with arguably the greatest game that we've ever gotten with Breath of the Wild. Now, there were some mid-year, if we're looking back to 2017, there were some mid-year games that were released. Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, we had Super Bomberman R, 1-2 Switch, which we don't talk about. ARMS and the Street Fighter Collection. There were some games that came out. Now, the biggest thing there were most of those games were new. So let's kind of take a look at 2018, what we've got so far, and kind of give our mid-season grades. So far this year has been slow to say the least. Kirby has been really the only new Nintendo first-party release. And being a Kirby fan, it kind of satisfied my need for those kind of games. I love 2D platformers. But if you kind of look at some of the other games that we've gotten, it's been kind of heavy on the ports. And someone like myself that was a big Wii U adapter, I love the console. This year, it's not really the most exciting for me personally. Now, we've gotten ports of great games like Donkey Kong Tropical Freeze, Bayonetta 1 and 2, and Hyrule Warriors. Now, the problem with this, for me personally, is that these aren't new games to me. You know, I have Donkey Kong Tropical Freeze on the Wii U, and I recently picked up Hyrule Warriors on the Wii U. So, although Nintendo is kind of marketing these as new game releases, for me personally, that's not the case. And I think that that's why this poll, and I'll get to that in a second, but this question essentially is so split because people are going to have different experiences. Not a lot of people bought the Wii U, but there are some people who did. And the people that I think are early adopters of the Switch owned a Wii U for the most part. So let's get to the poll. I put a poll up on Twitter and I will put it up right now. So I essentially asked, how would you grade the first 6 months of 2018 for the Nintendo Switch? And I said that these will be featured on an upcoming video. This is that video. And most of you were pretty nice with this. We have about 40% went with the letter grade B. Next highest was C, followed by A and D. Close to 40% with B. I think that's a little high. But then again, you know, the people that didn't own a Wii U, you know, they're going to feel that way because the games that have come out, Hyrule Warriors, Donkey Kong Tropical Freeze, those are good games, but just not new games for me. And that's kind of my emphasis on this. We got a lot of great comments in the comments section. I'll read off a couple here. Gonna be honest, this is from NeoKoopa64. Gonna be honest, have barely picked up my Switch at all this year. Too many Wii U ports, and Kirby isn't exactly my type of game. Hoping Mario Tennis Aces and E3 turns everything around. And that's actually a good point because I wanted to get this video out pre-E3. Now, the reason why I wanted to do that, obviously it's a mid-season, mid-year grade, but I think that Nintendo is going to bring it this E3. I think that we're gonna see a lot of new games and a lot of future titles. And I really didn't want E3 to kind of cloud my judgment with all that. Now, I think that's a very important thing to emphasize because E3 is going to be a giant celebration. We're going to get hopefully some new game releases and some promises of future releases. So I didn't want to kind of cloud my judgment with what would come or could come, versus what we have now. And what we have now is not a lot of new things. Now, I think that this formula that Nintendo has done this year has not been beneficial to someone like me, someone who had the Wii U, simply because they're marketing these games, like I said before, as new releases and kind of stacking them all together. If you remember last year when we had games like Pokken and Mario Kart 8, in between we would have brand new games, the ARMS, the Mario Rabbids, so it kept things fresh. The people that had those ports could look forward to new games the following month. This year we're getting mostly the ports. We're getting Hyrule Warriors And then when we do get a new game, it's Kirby and Nintendo Labo, both games which, respectively are for a younger audience. I mean, Nintendo as a whole, I think is for younger audiences. But if you're not into Kirby and you're not into Labo, which they've already said is not our demographic, then you're kind of scratching your head and playing some other games. And that's another good point, because we have got some third-party support. Payday 2 has been a nice surprise in terms of the first-person shooter market, and the indie games are forever there on the eShop. There's so many hidden gems on the eShop. But I'm specifically talking about what Nintendo has done and what Nintendo has given us thus far. Now let me read some of the other comments on this poll. My boy Rob from Frito Nation said, "Easy F. No progress towards anything really. I barely learned or gained anything and haven't even really touched my Switch since Kirby came out. Basically, this is just like my college career. No progress and disappointment." Relatable. But I do agree. I think that, what we've gotten so far has been questionable, and it kind of is leaving fans hungry. But that's not necessarily a bad thing. I remember last year when people said, I have too many games to play. This is a perfect lull of a year. The people that have played the ports can then catch up on their backlog. But that's no excuse. Now, in terms of a letter grade, mostly on the poll, you were seeing B's and C's. I definitely don't think that this has been an A year from Nintendo. An A year is just new releases after new releases, bangers, much like the end of this year, which I think is important because we are getting a lot of great games. Mario Tennis Aces, we're getting Sushi Striker, which I didn't think I would like, but after playing that demo, looks really good. And of course, the giant game at the end of the year, Super Smash Bros. And whatever Nintendo has to show us. There still are games that are done, like Yoshi, and we can all assume that Pikmin 4, where are you, bro, is close to being done. So I think that there was a lot of promise for the second half of the year, but I thought it was important enough to bring up the first half because it's been kind of painful for fans like myself, fans that have played some of these quote-unquote new games that Nintendo is releasing. So in terms of a letter grade for me personally, I would give the Nintendo Switch the first 6 months of 2018 a C. I wouldn't go C- or even C+. I think C is just average. There have been some games that, I haven't played before. Bayonetta 1 and 2, I never even touched before. Hyrule Warriors, I never even played before this year. So, and like I said before, everyone's going to have a different letter grade. There are going to be some people that have played every port that has came out. People that have skipped Labo and Kirby, and they think that this year's an easy F, like we heard earlier. And then there are going to be some people that are like, wow, Hyrule Warriors is a brand new game to me. Donkey Kong Tropical Freeze is a brand new game for me. So it's very relative to your personal experience. And I think that it was interesting enough to bring forward and to get all these responses. So thank you guys very much for voting on that poll on Twitter. I often make polls on Twitter to kind of gauge the community's voice and kind of hear people out and what they're thinking. So I always love doing that. So Twitter handle is in the description. And thank you guys for watching another video. And I will see you in the second half of 2018. Hopefully it is better than a C. Hopefully.